Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CreativeXR What About a Co-Production online webinar, where you'll be able to gather more information about what international production looks like around the world. My name is Evelyn Ofori-Karagu. I am the Innovation Delivery Manager at Digital Catapult, and I will be your host for today. In light of COVID-19, we are really aware that the arts and culture sector has taken a massive hit. And Digital Catapult and Arts Council want to make sure that content creators like yourselves have the opportunity and the resources to continue making brilliant work to push the industry forward. That's why we have created a series of webinars to provide you with the opportunity to learn more about the CreativeXR program and listen to our partners and friends in the industry. So this is the first of 3 webinars. The second one will be around our 5G and AI stream. And the last will be with our partners, Epic Games and Story Futures Academy. And we'll highlight more information about that later on. So just to let you all know that your cameras are turned off and your audio is on mute, and that's just to make sure that there's no audio feedback during the webinar. So in terms of the agenda for today, after I've given an overview of how the session will be run, you'll hear more about CreativeXR from my colleagues at Digital Catapult and Arts Council England. You'll learn about what a co-production is, and we have international producers from around the world who have stayed up late, who have risen up really early to be with us, to provide you with more insight about how that world works. And we're really grateful to have them on board and excited to hear their takes. Then you'll also have the chance to ask questions to our speakers. So throughout their presentations, you can send your questions in, and I'll explain a little bit about that later on. And then once the whole webinar is done, I will explain the next steps. So please remember that this webinar is being recorded, and we will share the presentations from our speakers with all the attendees after the webinar. So if you need to leave early for any reason, we are recording the session and we'll send it through to you in our post-event email. There is also a Zoom chat box facility. So at the bottom of the screen, you will see a chat box. If you just click that, then you will be able to connect with one another, attendees speaking to one another, to foster collaboration and opportunities to team up and work on projects together. And this is something that we really want to encourage in light of everything that's going on. We want producers to connect and help each other where maybe they don't have certain capabilities in their team. So in order to help with that, we would be amazing if you could fill in a Typeform collaboration survey. This Typeform collaboration survey will be put in the chat box. And here you will have the opportunity to highlight the skills that you're looking for, as well as skills that you can offer. So for example, if you are a script writer looking for a producer, or a director looking for a 3D game designer, fill out this survey and then we will be able to connect you. So that will be found in the chat box, and I'll put a reminder at the end of the webinar again in case you've missed it. So the Q&A session will be an opportunity for you to ask questions based on what you heard from our presenters. You can ask our presenters questions during their presentations. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A option in the menu. If you click that, then please direct your questions to that form. We won't answer any questions that you put in the chat, so please make sure it's in the Q&A box. Make sure that you address it to the relevant presenter, And also, if you see questions that you really like, then do make sure to upvote them with a thumbs up. And we'll make sure that question is directed to the relevant person. So up next, my colleagues, Madalena Crosti and Tanya Nelson, will be explaining to you more about CreativeXR and that program and how we can support you in this time. So I'm handing over to Madalena.
Hi everyone, my name is Maddalena Crosti. I'm the program lead for the immersive programs at Digital Catapult. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of context of Digital Catapult, which is the organization, one of the organizations behind which CreativeXR sits. So our goal in Digital Catapult is to accelerate the early adoption of advanced digital technologies in the UK. And we work across 4 different technology verticals. So it's future networks, which includes 5G and IoT, immersive technologies, artificial intelligence, and distributed systems. And we operate our various projects and programs, of which CreativeXR is one of them, across 2 different industries, which are the creative industries and the manufacturing industries. So CreativeXR is our flagship immersive and creative program, and it's been designed specifically for creators to produce an immersive prototype experience. This is the 3rd cohort that we have run so far. We've had 40 companies go through the past 2 cohorts, and through it, we've been able to help the development of 40 prototypes, as well as finance 9 of those prototypes to make into complete productions through the program. So, as I said, this is now the 3rd round and the call is now open. So what do you get if you are a part of CreativeXR in the 1st round especially? So you'll receive £20,000 in prototype funding, access to our immersive labs, which are all over the UK and which teams in the past have used for things like user research or team workshops. Throughout the 3-month development period of the prototype development, you will also be receiving workshops and mentorship around specific subjects like narrative storytelling, technical monitoring, and business plan development, depending on where you sit in the program and what your needs are. And then you will also be pitching at our final showcase and market event. So last year we held the event in October and it was a huge success. We had financiers and commissioners from all over the world attending, and teams were able to gain various opportunities from it, such as financing and exhibition opportunities. This year, we plan to hold the showcase in November, and we will either be holding it in person or remotely. So our dates are definitely fixed now. And depending on how the pandemic situation develops, we're keeping those dates. So finally, thank you. So another really huge benefit I wanted to highlight about the program is that you would be part of a cohort of 20 extremely talented teams. And what's happened in the past 2 cohorts is that teams have ended up collaborating with each other, either on CreativeXR projects or on projects beyond CreativeXR. And this is really one of the biggest benefits of being part of CreativeXR that many of teams have highlighted from the past. So I wanted to just very briefly run you through what is an immersive experience and what we've considered it as part of CreativeXR in the context of CreativeXR. So firstly, the experience is definitely an audience-facing experience. It could be delivered through virtual, augmented, or mixed reality. Next slide. Next slide. And when it's not on a head-mounted display, it could utilize real-time technologies such as Unity or Unreal. Next slide. It could have an element of interactivity, and it could be a spatial audio experience, for example, as well. So in other words, the experience uses these technologies to somehow create a sense of space that the audience member feels in some way around them. So moving on, this year, CreativeXR is a little bit different. We have laid out some different strands, which are basically themes within the overall CreativeXR brief that present additional benefits to the companies. So the first two are AI and 5G strands. So these two strands focus on two technologies that the Digital Catapult has expertise in, and they will receive additional mentoring from Digital Catapult. And if you'd like to hear more about these strands, if you're interested in applying, please do join our webinar, which is on Friday, and you'll be hearing more information about these. The second two strands are our partner strands. Next slide, please. Thank you. So these are themed around projects looking at narrative storytelling within immersive experiences, as well as projects that are specifically built on Unreal Engine. And these strands are supported by our partners on the program, who are Unreal Engine and Story Futures Academy. And you'll be hearing from them on the webinar next week on the 29th. So if you'd like to apply to these strands, please do tune into that webinar. So just quickly running you through the timeline so you get an idea. The open call closes on May 17th. The prototyping and workshops period is over 3 months between July and September. And the showcase is in November, which, as I said before, will either be in person or remote. And finally, just a few words about the pandemic. So we do understand that this lockdown situation has presented some difficulties in how you will produce the content. And we would like you to really think creatively around this challenge. What production methodologies will you be able to use between the times of July and September? And really do consider this as you are applying for CreativeXR. And finally, also, what distribution formats should you be using? What do you think will be most relevant? How will your audience see the piece? So really, please do consider it. So we're running CreativeXR no matter what. Despite this pandemic, we really believe in the ability of the immersive sector to innovate and think creatively around challenges. So we're really looking forward to receiving some really, really great applications that see these challenges creatively. And finally, I would really encourage you to also, as Evelyn mentioned before, to collaborate with each other in overcoming these challenges. And that's why, despite the fact that we're all locked down, we're trying to create as many opportunities as possible for you guys to connect through the chat or through the type form that we set up. So please do take advantage of those. So we're now going to hear from Tanya Nelson, who is our colleague at Arts Council England, which is the other main organization who is behind CreativeXR. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's really exciting to see so many of you, 126 of you in this webinar. That's really fantastic. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about how CreativeXR fits within Arts Council's overall strategy. So Arts Council is the biggest funder of arts and culture in the UK. And a couple of months ago, we launched a new 10-year strategy called Let's Create. And the premise behind Let's Create is that everybody in the UK, regardless of background, should be able to produce art and should be able to engage with art. Can I have the next slide? One of the reasons why we want this to happen is because we want to have a country that is creative and engages with culture and is innovative. So innovative in terms of art, but also just innovative generally. And so part of the reason why we invest in things like CreativeXR, which we've invested in for many years and hope to continue in the future, is that we want our organizations and the people we support to be innovative in terms of how they're creating new work, but also how they're connecting with audiences. And I feel the CreativeXR formula we have really does help to support organizations that want to be innovative in that way and use new technologies, particularly immersive technologies, to create new content and reach audiences in different ways. we're also really, really keen and know that innovation comes from collaboration across borders. And so really excited to invite people from different countries to collaborate with UK organizations to make great work, because that's how you get the best outputs. Can I have the next slide? Another thing that we're pushing in our new 10-year strategy is this idea of dynamism, which is being very responsive to new technologies, new tastes and habits, new behaviors by consumers. And obviously with COVID-19, we're right now kind of all having to be dynamic and think about how we're going to flex our organizations to be able to meet the new demands that the environment provides to us, with having new missions and possibly new business models. And so really thinking about that dynamism piece, particularly with COVID-19, I think is really interesting, because I think over the past year or so, it's felt like when it comes to immersive, what's been very popular has been more location-based work, where you're going to a venue to experience something, or you're going to a digital festival to produce something. It'll be interesting post-COVID-19 whether people will still have that same demand, or whether or not they'll be fearful of going to those types of events and larger gathering places, and whether or not demand will shift to at-home consumption of immersive experiences. So I think in thinking about projects and scoping out projects, it's interesting to think about how we respond to the current time that we're in. Can I have the next slide? This is not actually so relevant to this group of people, but I just wanted to say that Arts Council right now is really shifting a lot of its focus into emergency response. But what we're doing is we're not kind of just saying like, this is about saving your organization as it is. We are, with our funding, allowing people to say, hey, I'm going to change my business model, or I'm going to do more public facing digital projects or online projects, or I'm going to shift, I need to have this money in order to pay for digital costs of transferring my business online. So it just feels very much like this is the right time for something like CreativeXR. And I just really hope that you all will consider applying and really thinking about, I think this is such an optimal time, because so many people will be thinking about how to engage through digital means, and immersive will be one of those areas. And I think we'll be particularly interested in ideas that can be scaled in different ways, and that people can learn from the ideas that you all have. So thank you very much. Oh, and just to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to drop off the call early, but my colleague Ben Lane is on the call, who can answer any questions about Arts Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. So moving on next, I'd like to introduce you to Liz Rosenthal, who is the CreativeXR executive producer, and she will be our XR tour guide into international production. So over to you, Liz.
Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. So I'm very excited to be working with CreativeXR. It's the third round, and I've been involved since the beginning, and it's really exciting seeing the program grow. So one of my roles as executive producer is to help broker relationships between our selected project teams and potential financiers. And today's session is all about that. It's all about international co-production and how you, as UK producers, can work with other producers outside of the UK. In film and television, it's routine for producers to collaborate with international colleagues to help them build much more ambitious projects. We're seeing similar models being used by XR producers now, where working with a co-producer or multiple co-producers abroad can allow your project to gain access to state funding mechanisms and sometimes tax breaks from your colleagues' territories. Co-production can also open up paths to increased distribution possibilities or relationships to other powerful partners outside of your country. So I'm going to introduce you to a fantastic group of leading XR producers. We've got producers from the US, Canada, China, Taiwan, France, Germany, and the Netherlands. All are highly experienced producers in XR and also very used to working across borders. So let me introduce you. We have Rob McLaughlin and Audrey Packard from Canada, Eddie Lau from China, Antoine Kerol and Cataline Dibermer from France, Julia Isserlis from Germany, Corinne Myers from the Netherlands, Estella Valdivieso Chen from Taiwan, and finally Kane Lee and Jackie Bosniak from the US. So I'm going to introduce the producers by territory. They're going to give a 2-minute presentation of their companies, the genre and format of XR projects they produce, and examples of the co-productions they are doing. After this, we'll be answering audience questions. So as Evelyn said, please type your questions into the Q&A chat box in your menu, and we'll answer the most upvoted questions after the presentations. So we're going to start with Canada. Canada is a country with a long-standing record of co-production. They have huge amounts of treaties, working in television and film co-production, and XR is also an area where they are very active. So first up, we have Rob McLaughlin from the National Film Board of Canada. Hi, Rob.
Morning, everyone, I guess, or afternoon. Hi. Quick presentation from us, the National Film Board of Canada. We are an agency of the federal government of Canada. I'm a government employee, and we exist inside the Heritage Department, where most of the arts and culture organizations sit inside Canada. We've been around for around 80 years, just over 80 years, and we are one of the last public producing organizations in the world. We're not funders, we're not grantors. We bring financing and take equity in all of our productions and co-productions, and we take a very hands-on approach to the work. We're probably most known over those 80 years for our work in POV documentary and auteur animation for about the last decade. You know, we've sort of tried to innovate and experiment with interactive and immersive projects. So we do produce a significant amount of that work. I think if we added it up, it would be about 25% of our output is connected to immersive and interactive work. Our mission, as I understand it, and it's often open for debate and debated within inside our organization, but our mission is to really help Canadians understand themselves, help Canadians understand their place in the world, and ultimately help the world understand us. And we do that sort of public service work through the production of story and art. Our organization is split up into English and French, and I lead a digital studio inside the English language arm of the NFB. My colleague Louis Richard Tremblay leads the French language side. And our two studios produce the bulk of immersive, interactive, and XR projects inside the Film Board, but all producers do have sort of latitude to proceed and produce that kind of work. We do participate in international co-productions, which is why we're here today. About 30% of our overall work is some kind of co-production. I don't have the exact figure on international co-productions, but we do participate in those. If you just switch to the slide, the next slide, I've put 4 of them for you here to take a look at. One of the most recent ones is called Fortune. It's an augmented reality project in co-production with Atlas 5 and Arte in France. That has us as the Film Board directly co-producing with Atlas 5 and Arte. There is no other Canadian co-producer involved in that production. Another recent co-production, international co-production, was with a Canadian production studio in Montreal, Felix and Paul Studios, and the Adam Mickiewicz project, or institute, sorry, in Poland. So we started working with Felix and Paul and then brought the institute into the co-production arrangement after. Some of you, hopefully lots of you, will know about our production Draw Me Close, which was produced by David Oppenheim in collaboration and partnership with Toby and the National Theatre in London. And one of our earlier sort of XR co-productions, I guess, was also The Enemy. And I don't have DPT in Montreal listed as one of the participants in the production there, but this would have been a Canadian and international co-production arrangement, which involved us as well. We do bring financing to all of our projects, and we can participate in international co-productions where there is no other Canadian co-producer involved in the production, and Fortune is one example of that. Fortune is an example where there's a Canadian artist who's sort of at a high level helping lead the project. So we figured that was enough for us to come in and finance and actively participate in that project. But as an agency of the federal government, we are unable to access directly most of the funding bodies in Canada. So our arrangement in the other co-productions, international co-productions that we'll do, often involve a Canadian co-producer as well. So we would look for a Canadian co-producer or artist that could participate in the production. Those Canadian individuals or teams would then look for ways to access various funding bodies within Canada, and we would, on top of that, bring financing to the project as well. The two things to keep in mind with us, I guess, is that we are really looking for projects that are attempting to innovate in story, like I'm sure you are all doing, and narrative form. We most often participate in documentary or factual experiences. Sometimes auteur-led artistic experiences fit the bill as well, but we don't do very much drama at the Film Board. Not that we can't, we just usually don't. So if it is documentary or factual in nature, it's probably a better fit for us. And the last thing I'll just say is, of course, as public servants, you know, we are looking for projects with some kind of direct link to Canada, usually involving a Canadian artist or certainly Canadian producers, but also through the story or content of the project or experience as well.
Great, thank you, Rob. We're going to move on now to Audrey Packard. Audrey's company is Item 7 and Very Story, and she's based in Montreal.
Yes, hi everyone. I must say it's my first webinar, and it's really weird to be alone, talking alone in my apartment. It's really stressful actually not to see anyone. Anyway, so I'm a producer based in Montreal, where it's -13 today. And so after producing dramas, I'm happy because after NFB, I'm not doing making documentary, but really more dramas. So after producing dramas for more than 15 years and running the first digital SVOD platform in Canada, I've jumped into the immersive world 5 years ago. And I founded my own company as a consultant, Very Story. And then a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to go back to production. So I made a joint venture with a very famous company called Item 7 here in Montreal. Item 7 is specialized in feature film. And I wanted to join them because I wanted to produce international projects, and they were very, very specialized in strong international structure. So we started to work together, and with the goal to, you know, develop fiction and push the boundaries of screenwriting in XR. So. And more specifically, I wanted to talk about love and sensuality in XR. So we decided to produce dramas around these topics. So next slide. So I'm going to introduce you to our 3 main projects we are working on right now. As a co-production. So I just want to say a word about the CMF, the Canadian Media Fund, who is our main partner for all the projects here in Canada. We are very lucky because this federal agency, this federal institution, the Canadian Media Fund, I started to fund interactive and digital project almost 10 years ago. They were pioneers in terms of funding that kind of project, and they created a special program called the incentive measures, which help the producer to produce with to co-produce different projects with different countries like Belgium, Ireland, Israel, Luxembourg, and almost 10 countries like that. And I was lucky to get money from that program for Marco Polo Go Round, which is a project where a couple is fighting in the kitchen, and the more their relationship is falling apart, the more the world is falling apart around them. So we have money from this measure with Belgium. Arte bought it. It was a pre-sale. It was the first time that Arte did that. And it's really interesting because we could we can have expertise from all over the world with this measure, and push the collaboration with these countries. My biggest project right now is Miss Else, which is a short story, a short adaptation from Arthur Schnitzler. I decided to co-produce this project with Sun Creature in Denmark because they are very, very talented, and they're doing project with Netflix and Amazon. And the idea of this project is to create a VR format, but also to develop a more traditional format with the Netflix and Amazon platforms. So we received money from the CMF and the public institution in Denmark, and we also going to try to develop a tool with my partner here in Montreal in order to push the technology, the 2D technology into 3D and VR. So so next project, next slide. And so the third project, Musea, is an AR museum experience, but not only for museum. It's going to be also for all kind of places like the Atelier des Lumières in France, for people who know that place and experiences. It's going to be an AR narrative experience where we want to try to create fictional scenes that you can handle in your hands. So we have a partnership with a museum in Peru, and we are hoping to have another partner in France. So we are very, I must say that I'm not a federal agency that like NFB, but we are still very lucky in Canada because now the CMF changed, lately they changed their program, because before they could give almost $1.5 million per project. But because they were giving a lot of money, they were financing more video games project. And now actually 2 or 3 weeks ago, they decided that they wanted to fund more creative and artistic project. So we are really lucky because we have a public institution which is willing to help and fund project which can push all the boundaries of technology, screenwritings, innovation. Actually now this program is called Innovation and Experimentation. So we will be willing to explore all kind of narratives, all kind of immersive technology, and also we will be able to do that with a lot of international partners. Yeah, I have to stop that.
That's perfect, Audrey. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to ask the two of you two very quick questions. So Rob, you mentioned about the conditions of working with the NFB, that you can work with foreign co-producers. I want to ask you about the creatives though, about directors, because our projects in CreativeXR, you know, they're majority UK projects, probably the main director or creative is going to be UK. Is that going to be an issue?
You know, I'm sort of lateral in my thinking around that. I would like to say it probably will be, but it's not necessarily an issue. We find creative ways to kind of make projects that we're excited about happen. There does need to be, it does need to make some sense somehow. If it's a Canadian director and it's a singular artistic vision, that's a slam dunk for us. We can support that work.
Because I saw The Enemy, for example, that's Karim, who's based in Germany, but I think is he Belgium, I think?
Yeah, and DPT came on as the Canadian arm that made it easy for us to support that project as well. If there's, you know, we sometimes look for our international co-producers to make those connections to Canadians, whether that's individual artists or teams, and sometimes we facilitate that as well. And of course, so I'm open for all those discussions to see if there's a Canadian connection. Because the rules aren't clearly defined, yeah.
Brilliant, that's great to know. And Audrey, I wanted to also just quickly ask you about the conditions of the spend, because obviously you as the Canadian producer are raising money from Canada, a lot of the time from CMF, Canada Media Fund, who's one of the main funders of immersive content. What's the condition of the spend? It obviously all has to be spent in Canada, and is there the money that you raise? So 100% of, like, if you raise $1 million, which is great, and I think you can with CMF, you have to spend that $1 million in Canada.
You have the right to spend 25% of your Canadian money outside the country. Otherwise, all the rest of the money is supposed to be spent in Canada. But yeah, you can spend 25% of this money outside Canada. But of course, if it's Canadian money, usually you have to spend it in Canada. But you can make a co-production, and if money is coming from France or another country, of course we'll have to spend the money coming from France in France. But still, you can spend 25% of the budget of the Canadian budget in outside the country,
which is very good and very rare.
Yeah.
Thank you, both of you. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to move on to our next territory, but we are going to have questions anyway. So anybody who's listening, please put your questions into the Q&A, and we can go back to Audrey and Rob or any of the speakers as we go along at the end. So we're moving to China. So I'm delighted to introduce Eddie Lau of Sunman Studios, who is based in Beijing.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm Eddie Low from Beijing. We are actually running a CreativeXR studio that was started in 2016, and we've been working on AR, VR experiences in the past few years. I'm also funded one of the biggest immersive media-based festival in China, which is, we had two past editions in Qingdao, which I think we have a lot of people that actually came over to and joined us in the past few years, including Liz. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to mention a little bit on the festival. It's actually one of the biggest gathering of immersive creator in China and in Asia. And we really wanted to bring international guests to come over, first of all, to learn about this, what has been going on creatively in China, as well as to explore the business opportunities that which we can explore and leverage the very big potential market, China market, and how to actually work with China and how to distribute your content over to China market. And this year, apart from, well, obviously, because of the pandemic, we won't be able to run the festival as we've been doing it in the past 2 years. It was supposed to be in end of June, but we are actually aiming to do the event in mid-September. But still, we do have to observe how the pandemic situation, evolve. But we are aiming to do it in September. So I hope that I hope that every one of you can actually consider and come over and join us But if there's still travel restrictions by then, we'll definitely have online, whether it's flat screen or virtual VR gathering as a counterpart too. So if you couldn't travel over here, we hope we can see you online as well. Just one side note on that, we actually started to have incubation program starting from this year. We already have our call for submissions. It was still going on at this moment. So if any one of you wanted to submit projects to us, that'd be great. But apart from that, we are running an incubation program to be partnered with Huawei, which is one of the biggest telecommunication company in China, which they're going to fund projects. We're focused more on Chinese projects, but we really wanted to encourage people to work with Chinese creator and art and talents as international co-production. So we hope that we could provide this bridge and platform for people to work together across the continent. Yeah, can I have the second slide, please? Right. So at the studio level, we've been working on all different kinds of projects in the past few years. So we had two real-time animation, which both got selected by Venice Film Festival in 2017 and 2018, Free Will and Fresh Out. And last year we actually had a co-production with Digital Rise from France, got supported by CNC as well, which is a VR immersive theater that is a little bit similar to Alice Virtual Reality Play and Drama Close from National Theatre. And from this year, we've been working on something very different and new, very exciting. So we've been working with Intel Studios and volumetric projects that is based on Terracotta Warrior and the story of the Emperor Qin, which is volumetric work, VR experience. And we've been working on a number of independent artists on spatial AR comics, which we're going to be having some snippets in the next couple of months very soon. And we're also working on one of our most ambitious projects, which is called Wherever. It's a mass scale VR immersive theater that can facilitate more than 100 people at the same time, both people who are actually from home or at locations in theater spaces. So we are working on the project along with Huawei and OptiTrack to facilitate mass gathering in the online virtual stage, which we actually implemented a 60-minute experience for the audience that will allow people to interact with 6 live mocap actors live using their hand gestures as well as voice. So it's a very technologically very complicated project and also ambitious. Storytelling wise, it's also very ambitious. So this is something we're going to share a little bit more information with you guys very soon in the next couple of weeks, if you're interested. And I will also hope that we could find ways to collaborate with international artists and talents. Yeah, so that's a very brief introduction of our studios as well as the festival.
Great, thank you so much, Eddie. So as Eddie said, I've been to the 2 editions of Sandbox Festival, and it's a fantastic event to go to, so highly recommended. And we had 2 of our CreativeXR projects actually at the festival last year who won awards, Common Grounds and the Collider.
Well, Darren in the audience as well.
So we're very happy about that. So China is a super interesting territory at the moment because there's a huge growth of the 5G networks, and also the government has a big sort of push for mass VR adoption. So I'm really interested in asking you, what other kind of projects do you think can work in the Chinese market? You've done a lot of animation, I know. What kind of genre, what do you do about language? Do you have to do a Mandarin version?
Yeah, I mean, if there's projects to be distributed over to China market, there has to be some form of localization, whether it's voice over or if it's a 360 video, it has to be subtitled as well at minimum level. I do think all different kinds of formats could work you know, distribution wise. If it's a 360 video, you can definitely bring those work to telecommunication companies in China, which there are 3 main ones. We've been also working with them on distribution, you know, negotiations too. That's 360 video. And for more of interactive experiences, there's always ways to, you know, design and implement a, you know, a very specially curated exhibitions around one piece of work or a collective, you know, of projects. Similar to like what Bystander has been doing from Montreal, because there are a lot of people at telecommunication, at 5G, you know, perspective, those telecommunication companies wanted to promote, they wanted to actually generate at least 50 million users by the end of this year to use, you know, 5G and VR capabilities. So that's the online part of it. And location-based wise, well, you know, not considering the virus situation, but we do have a lot of people go to different public spaces for, you know, location-based entertainment. So if, whether it's, you know, curated exhibitions or, you know, to deploy an experience at different kinds of venue, whether it's theater or art spaces, there are always going to be a lot of potential traffic of people that could be drawn into those experiences, because we do have one of the biggest population in the world. So there is definitely a lot of location-based opportunities out there for more experimental, for you know, six of interactive experiences, or even more experimental and arty work too.
Thank you so much, Eddie. When I went to China, I was in Shanghai in October, and then kindly Eddie took me to Beijing and we did a fantastic tour. I really noticed there's a huge appetite for sort of artistic projects, and really that we are in the situation, ones that are in locations that are very ambitious. So it's quite exciting to see all the possibilities.
Yeah. We just hope that all the public spaces can be opened up very soon.
Crossing fingers. Thank you so much, Eddie. We're going to move on to France now, and I am going to start with Antoine Carroll from Atlas 5. Hi, Antoine.
Hello, Liz. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to present Atlas 5 and myself to 126 people. There is a lot of the panelists that I know personally, but a lot of the people hearing us today, I don't know you, and I'm looking forward to change that in the next year. So my name is Antoine Carroll. As you can hear as my accent, I'm a French producer and co-founder of the company called Atlas 5. I'm personally the only one of the producer at Atlas living in the UK. I'm based in London, so also it can make things more easy to launch co-production and future partnership or future development later. And I'm co-founder, producer, and head of distribution in Atlas 5. So what we do at Atlas 5, we can have the next slide, por favor. Yeah, what we do at Atlas 5 is crafting immersive content that can be either augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, all kind of immersive content, because we're also doing dome movies and installation. And if you look at all what we did the last 3 years, and you can discover all these pieces on Steam, Viveport, or Oculus Store. So please, I hope that you'll go discover them and like them. Some of them are free, some are on paid mode. And there is 2 things that link all this title we've did is what we're doing at Atlas is immersive, non-gaming narrative. So obviously we do real-time engine, we do 6DoF experience, we do a lot of animation, and there is some interaction, but it's not gaming UX design. So we're not like on a dead and retry or either on narrative game. We're really doing narrative experience in immersive. So that's what we're doing right now. The title you have here is the one that are already released. And the other common point between all these titles is 100% of them are based on co-production. What we're trying to do at Atlas is bring together around a great project and a great director, the best team possible around him, and also help to finance ambitious project. And ambitious project required a little bit of money. And so we try to find the money everywhere in the world. And in order to do that, we need to team with local producer, because a lot of the possibility in every country is unlocked only with a national producer. So as a French producer, I will do a kind of web of other producer and go together to raise the money and then create the perfect piece. So I hope that I will meet some future co-producer for the UK here, or also some future artists or creators. My next project will be called Madrid Noir, and I'm really proud that it was a UK project. So it's a UK-France co-production that was also helped with CreativeXR. So I'm really happy to work on this one. And that was the brief introduction. So I hope you'll have some question after, and we can meet later in London or in the UK to speak about VR or AR project.
Great, thank you so much, Antoine. Next up is Katayoun, who's from Floriel Films in Paris. Hi, Katayoun.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet all of you and the ones I already know in this webinar. Thank you for invitation, Liz. So Floriel Film was founded in 2014. We are based in Paris and very soon in Montreal. So we produce feature film, short film, and especially XR immersive content in general. The majority of our productions in XR are co-productions, international co-productions. What kind of projects we work on? We look at the team behind the project, how innovative, this is especially for co-productions, how innovative is the concept behind the project and how emotionally we can connect to the project. So we work on cross-genre, fiction, documentary, and we do artistic project, non-commercial. I was hoping that Antoine will talk more about the funding opportunities in France, but I will do. So in France, we have a lot of opportunities, financing opportunities. There is in national level, in regional level, and broadcasting channels like Arte and France Télévisions. So there is in national level, we have CNC funding. We have different categories for this funding. We have video games. We have like for technical aspect of immersive projects. We have for digital, digital experiences. And then we have regional funding, and depending on what you need in regions, you can go and ask for funding. And then we have Arte and France Télévisions, which I mentioned. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, so co-productions for us are like puzzles. We normally study the needs of the project at the first step. Then we go and see which countries are actually giving the best solutions for the project. Then we study the funding opportunities in these countries, and then we gather the whole team around the project. So here you see some of our projects that have already finished and some of them that are in development. So the ones that we already launched and we want to launch this year, the one Hangman at Home by Uri and Michel Cranot, one of the brilliant couple artists that they are based in Denmark. This is a co-production with National Film Board of Canada. It's the animation studio based in Montreal, Late Love Productions in Denmark, and Miu Production in France. So as you see, we go for, in each country, we go for the funding, for the public funding to actually fund the project. Danish Film Fund, Sense. In this case, we went to Nouvelle-Aquitaine, which is a region in France, and of course NFB, which is a co-producer on the project. Another project that we launched in Tribeca, but unfortunately no one can see it because it's an actual installation, and because of COVID, Tribeca got postponed for now. Minimum Mass by Rocky Sayed and Arito Echeverria. This is another co-production that we are doing. It's New Zealand, USA, and France co-production. It was a project that was in New Frontier in Sundance New Frontier in 2018, and yeah, it got funded by New Zealand Film Commission. We got here CNC and so on. So you see some of our projects in development, Nefele by Alexander Perez, Les Nuits by Bertrand Mandico, and The Imaginary Friend by Estella Halema. We constantly search for new projects, new collaborations, and yes, please don't hesitate to contact us and start a conversation.
Great, thank you so much, Katarine. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. So, Katarine, thank you for going through the different financing possibilities in France. I'm going to go back to Antoine and ask you, because you've got 2 UK projects you're doing UK co-productions with. You've got 38 Minutes, which was presented at the CreativeXR market, and then Madrid Noir, which you mentioned, which was a CreativeXR project last year, which got production, prototyping and then production funding. So both are in production. Can you talk a little bit about how that works in terms of how you access the finance from France? Because the creative is being made in the UK. I know they're different, they're kind of different structures, and how does that work? Does the CNC, for example, who's one of your funders, does that bother them that the creative is in the UK?
So I have 5 projects with the UK, actually, not 2, so, which is pretty good. One of them is a Magic Leaf project, and 4 of them are VR. One is Quest multi-user, 3 other are more classic, kind of animated VR. So I think, as said Audrey Paccard from the FMC, it's a little bit the same kind of philosophy for France. Not the same kind of percentage, but the same kind of philosophy. It's like the CNC give you money, you can spend a chunk of this money outside France, but you need to spend, like if you're an international co-production, I think 2/3 of the money in France. The specific numbers are really well known by my producer, but I think it's 2/3 if you're an international co-production. So what you'll do is like you ship away this 1/3 to your partner that needs it. And because he's doing a lot of the creative, usually when you begin a project, if the project emerged from outside of France, like the example of this project, then you need to be really honest with the creative from the beginning. You say to the director, okay, we have like, let's give the example of $1 million, okay, it's a lot, but let's keep the example. You will tell him like, okay, you have a $1 million project, and there is thing that you want to keep in the UK. There is thing that is really important for you to keep. You need to make me a priority list of what you really want to keep in the UK, because you will need to drop half of this to ship it to France. You know, so that's the director that will choose what he keep here and what he send me to France, because I need to have French spending, because a lot of these grants are there to make economy grow and employment grow in our own territory. So if I ship away all the CNC or territorial money to the UK, there is no purpose on helping my country. So let's take the example of Madrid Noir. It's a really great example and an actual project in co-production. It's help from the UK, but also from France, right now only in development, but I have strong hope that it will go to production also with the help of CNC and territorial region in France. So then the head of the creation, the director, say, I want to keep, like, the most important thing for me is to keep the animation of the characters in the UK. So he keep animation of the characters. Then we go back to the breakdown, and it's like, so I will build the set in France. And he's like, okay, you can do the sets, I'll do the animation of the characters. And then we choose exactly to have a good balance of where you spend the money. Then you have also the sound design, the voiceover, you have a lot, the casting, a lot of things are real spending that you can choose where to spend. And that's an easy way when you have 2 countries. Usually you have 3 countries, 4 countries, 5 countries. So then it's a little bit a puzzle. Of course, I think, Katarine, you said the name puzzle on your presentation. It's exactly that. It's a puzzle. Where should I spend the money? Who have the best tax credit on this? Is this spending allow me to have a tax credit or not in this country? If it's not, I will do it in this country because I have a tax credit.
Can I just ask, do you have tax credits in France? Can you access tax credits for XR?
So if you do video games, yes. If you do XR, if you're a UK producer, that is giving me his project to spend in France, I have tax credit. We have international tax credit. That's what we had on Spheres, for example. If it's my own project and I'm the majority producer, I don't have my national tax credit, which is a shame. If you have people from the French government on the webinar, they know that. But the French producers are working that way because it's a new field, you know.
Yeah, and fantastic. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off just because we need to.
But it was the most important thing I was.
Yeah, because the tax credit's really, really interesting because obviously an incentive for you to co-produce, which is excellent. Thank you so much, Antoine. I'm just going to ask Katarina a quick question. So we talked about the structure. Can we talk a little bit about money, like the kind of money that you can access from, let's talk about CNC, for example, which is obviously the most important, the funding body who's involved with the most projects across France.
Yes, definitely. So if I understand well, you want to know how the maximum of funding. Yeah. So for CNC, for example, there are 3 categories. There is writing that just the artist can apply for. Then there is development phase and production. For writing phase, I can say somewhere in between 5,000 to 13,000 euros. In this case, the author has to be French or European, maybe. I don't know. Antoine can confirm that, but I think French or European. In the development and production phase, you need to have a production company attached to the artistic project. In development, you can touch between maybe 20,000 until 70K. Still in euros, and in production you can go around 70 to maximum 150 to 100 euros. It really depends how complex is your project and how much you're asking.
Great, that's really, really useful. Thank you, Katarina. Remember, you can keep on asking questions, everybody. I've cut somebody off. And also, I just wanted to say, we've had a bit of chat in the thing. There's big tax credits in Canada as well, because we talked about that. Canada has various different types of tax credits, federal tax credit. Great. So we're going to move on. Thank you very much, Antoine and Katarina. That was fantastic. We're going to move on to Germany now. So delighted to introduce Julia Isselis, whose company, Another World, is based in Berlin.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I am the CEO and co-founder of Another World VR, and Another World was funded in 2016. So we're just celebrating our 4th birthday, and we are focusing on cinematic VR. So basically VR that blurs the line between cinema and gaming. So we are very much on the entertainment side of everything. And we try that all of our games and experiences are as photorealistic as possible while being made in a games engine. So we don't focus on film, we don't focus on 360 film, we really focus on interactive VR in a games engine. Next slide, please. That's me. So yeah, like here, whoever needs it, like here's my contact information. Like I come previously from a film background, and I started VR because it was really interesting for me that I finally can have the role of a protagonist in a film, and I can enter a film's universe in VR. And I still am very, very much excited about this idea, which we made true in our experiences. So next slide, please. So the 2 games and experiences that we are most known for are Cobalt from 2018, which premiered in Venice. It's a horror game, so pure entertainment and pure screaming, about 1 hour long. And Pig and Peak VR, a single player escape room, also horror game that premiered at Venice in 2019 and is available also on Steam, Oculus Store, Viveboard since Halloween 2019. And right now we're building a multiplayer for it, and which we hoped, which we were supposed to premiere at South by, but unfortunately it was canceled. So when it comes to co-productions, until 2019, we were working a lot in the position of work for hire for a lot of artistic experiences and social awareness experiences. And since 2019, we started to be involved in co-productions, as seen here in the screenshot from Bystanding. It's a social awareness experience that is about 15 minutes long, about the bystander effect. So basically the effect if something tragic happens to somebody, and the more people see it, the less the chances that they're actually going to help you. This is the bystander effect. And this is a bystander effect we're going to show here in this experience of a real accident that happened in Israel. So this one is a co-production with Canada and Israel. So from the German side, we were funded by Median Board, Berlin-Brandenburg. From the Canadian side, we were funded by CMF. And from Israel, we were funded by Conda, the channel, the broadcasting channel, Markov and Geshe. Then just in general, in Germany, there are plenty of funding opportunities. So we have our regional funds, which we use here with Median Board in Berlin-Brandenburg. Then obviously there are regional funds in Bavaria with the FFA and other states in Germany. Then we have access to the European Fund, which is Creative Europe. And then we have a pure gaming fund, which has the very creative name of Gaming Fund for Germany, which gives yearly a budget of 50 million euro to different projects. There is no border of how much they can fund a specific project, and VR gaming is also part of gaming. So like there are, for now, the biggest budgets that you can get for a VR entertainment project.
Great, thank you, Julia. So, so at Median Board, with the spend, so what's the budget you can get specifically from your funding body? Sort of up
from Median Board, the very maximum that they ever gave to a game was 200,000 euro.
Great.
And that only happened once. So like the usual budgets are 100,000, something like that.
Yeah. And do you have to spend that all in your federal state?
Yeah. In Berlin, Brandenburg, you have to spend it all here in Berlin-Brandenburg. But there are different rules when it comes to the gaming funding body.
And also, I know in other federal states they have different spends. So I know some you have to spend 125%. Yeah, so it's all different in all the federal states. And what about tax credits? Do you have local?
We don't. The Germans really love their taxes. No tax credits for us.
That's a shame. And so what kind of other sort of support and services do you think, Germany's good at in terms of XR? I mean, it's a great tech hub, isn't it, really?
It is. I think the area of Munich and Berlin-Brandenburg is pretty much a tech hub. So we have our volumetric studios here, a lot of startups that are working here, and like it's a pretty big community that also helps each other out for free. Which is fantastic. We have a great association here, VRBB, that supports developers in getting funding and connects them with everybody. And Median Board is a fantastic creative body, just a funding body, just in general, because they believe in artistic creations, in social awareness, in gaming. And for them, it's really important to fund a variety of projects and of different genres, which is fantastic. And it's the application itself is not a nightmare, which is for Creative Europe the case. It's a bureaucratic nightmare, but with Median Board it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, they work together with CMF, with Canada. They have a specific fund together with Canada, which is also great.
Great, fantastic to know. And I know Median Board has supported interactive and immersive projects for a long while. They are, very forward thinking. Thank you so much, Julia.
You.
Hang on for the questions. So we're now going to go to the Netherlands, and we have Corinna Myers, whose company is called BRX Studio, and she's based in the Netherlands and lives in Utrecht. Hi, Corinne. Hello, are you there?
Oh, I'm there, yes.
Great.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks, CreativeXR, for having me. My name is Corine Meijers. I recently created my own company called Studio Biarritz. I'm based in the Netherlands, Utrecht. Some people might already know me because I work with Submarine Channel, a digital production house, an online distribution channel in Amsterdam. I'm still working with them on a freelance base, but I'm also building my own company now for like a couple of months now. These past 6 years, I have produced several interactive documentaries, some interactive graphic novels, and I produced some VR films. One of them is Ashes to Ashes, and I'm still involved with a project called The Imaginary Friend with Submarine Channel, which is a co-production with Belgium and also with France with L'Oréal Films. With my own company, I will continue working on projects like that. With Studio Biarritz, we will cross borders, inform technology and subject matter. We would like to collaborate with different kind of filmmakers, artists, partners, and I would like to look for different kind of audiences. So I would like to look for projects that we can distribute on multiple platforms. I will focus on XR experiences, which are narrative driven, and I'm very interested in cross-media projects. So that can also be linear content, but not only focusing on audiovisual. But
can I just, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Apparently you've got to switch your video on. I've just been sent a message, you're off screen.
Okay. Yeah, better?
Sorry to interrupt you,
okay.
Yeah.
So with my projects, I will also cross genre. So I'm looking for documentary, animation, live action, drama. So it can be quite diverse. For the next slide, please. Let me see. Yes, a project that I'm now working on. It's a completely Dutch project. It's called The Bastard. And it's by a Dutch photographer. It's going to be his first documentary. And it's going to be theater together with spoken word and a book as well, besides the documentary. And we are co-producing this with the Dutch public broadcaster. Besides that, there are 3 projects which are XR projects, Floating with Spirits, Tampi, and Doubts. And they're all international co-productions. I'm gonna step in as a minority co-producer. Just to give you an example, the project Doubts of a Genius by Matteo Leonardo. It's a VR interactive experience that explores self-doubt in the creative process by taking the user on a journey into the minds of Leonardo da Vinci and 3 contemporary artists, Shirin Neshat, Valesco Vitali, and Bernard Smilde. And I just wanted to mention them because Bernard Smilde is a Dutch artist. And for me, I think the angle to co-produce on a project like this is very strong because of the Dutch artist that is involved. So I think that the chances to find funding in the Netherlands is big for this project. Another project called Floating with Spirits.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, and we are going to send these through just because I'm worried about the time. Yeah. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but so we are going to send these slides through so everyone can see Corinne's project. I'm so sorry. I want to ask you something specific about the Netherlands, because on your slide you're mentioning you've got different funding possibilities. So yes. Netherlands Film Fund has a specific fund now for immersive projects. You've mentioned also the broadcasters. How much kind of money could you raise as a minority co-producer? So working, for example, with a UK producer out of the Netherlands.
For minority co-production, I can ask for 50,000. And
50,000 euros, yes.
Yes, and it has to be spent completely 100% in the Netherlands. And there has to be already funding in place of a public funding of the country of the main producer. So there has to be some funding in place already. besides that, I'm looking into the possibilities to find funding, for example, in the city of Utrecht, where there's a possibility to ask for another 20,000. If you're working with a company based in Amsterdam, there's also the arts fund, AFK we call it, in Amsterdam. So there's a possibility to maybe find a partner as well in Amsterdam. And if you have a Dutch artist, and that's why I mentioned the project Doubts with Bernard Smilde, there's a way to go to the Mondriaan Fonds, and they will support Dutch artists. So I think it depends a bit on the project. What
but that's very much about, so for our UK producers, that's probably not something you can do. It's probably going to be more likely it's the Film Fund. CreativeXR project with the UK Creative.
Yeah. In the first step, yes, but it depends a bit on the project. And there's also the Creative Industries Fund, and they have a regulation called internationalization. And I'm talking with them about the possibilities to collaborate. And also when artists are not necessarily Dutch. So that's something I'm looking into now.
So what's the maximum you've raised on the budget? Just quickly, one quick answer. What's the maximum you've raised for an international co-production sort of so far?
It's 70,000 now.
Great to know. We can come back to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Corinne.
You're welcome.
Going to move east to Taiwan. So one of the most active producers in the territory is Estella Valdivieso Chen from Serendipity Films. So delighted to see you, Estella, all the way from Taipei.
Hi everyone. Great to be here. Even though don't get to travel anywhere now, I'm still very happy that I have a chance to meet people from UK here to kind of share what we can do and potentially find something to work together. So what Serendipity does, Serendipity is based in Taiwan, and we are a film production company that we actually started as a film production company and been developing films and series. And we got into immersive content in 2017. So that's kind of how we, with the film DNA and all that, we kind of realized there are a lot of similarities that we can try to bring in resources that we can utilize in immersive content. And that's kind of how we further on building up a lineup and projects that we can work on in immersive content. And we have a different kind of support, which I will kind of share on the next page. That is the project that we have been doing the past few years. So the very first one that we did is Your Spiritual Tempo Sucks. It's actually a project that was kind of part of the Kaohsiung Film Archive first selection projects that they incubated. There was very limited financing at the beginning because they were also trying to figure out how this kind of production can work and whether they want to put more support into immersive content. And it turned out to be quite, even though we had only very limited financing to kick off the project, we were able to find technical partners that are more focused on the VR R&D side and technical part to participate, Unique, and managed to bring this project together to Sundance in 2018. And that pretty much opened up our world to the VR and really meet a lot of great creatives from different places, especially in France. That's kind of how we were introduced first, because we had a distributor-wide VR that brought the project into France. We met a lot of filmmakers, French filmmakers, VR creators in Paris, and that also gave us that thought of saying like, okay, let's bring that film co-production experience that we had into VR and start working on sharing different financial resources, production resources, and see what we can do. And that led us to the second project, which is Mechanical Souls. That is a co-production with DV Group and Digital Rise. And what we did with this two French company is that Mechanical Soul is pretty much an IP, a story world development program that we established together. We started with a VR pilot, basically introducing the story world and created an immersive theater experience around, so we can do LBE tour around with it. And at the same time that we try to find resources here in Taiwan, and they find resources there in France. So we got CNC support from the French side, and also Kaohsiung Film Archive support on this project. And this was very much their very first VR co-production, and they were very excited because they want to also see how they can create more a collaboration between Taiwan and French filmmakers, which is something that we can also try to bring to work with UK creatives as well. It applies the same way. It's very much important for Taiwanese Financing and Foundings Institute to see that there is a high Taiwanese creative participation. So even though with Mechanical Souls, we have director that's from France, we have co-writers from UK and France, both. They are Westerners, but we still bring in a lot of creative participation, not only from the producers but also from the key creatives, other key creatives like, production designers, costumes, and all other parts, so that they can also provide a more interesting Asian look to a project, and and also Asian cast that can help us get financing, also establish the possibility of distribution domestically, so that we can build more marketing domestically to share to more people. So this is kind of like a very important process that when we work with international partners, we try to find projects that can have that Asian angle that our Taiwanese creatives can participate.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut you off there just because we're very short on time, and I want to make sure Jackie have a good chance to do their presentation. I've just got one question for you around funding, because the Kaohsiung Film Lab, amazing resource. It's a little bit about like CreativeXR, where they help develop and fund projects. But also you have this new fund, Taika, which is really interesting because it's for projects, it's specifically about Taiwanese projects that have international partners, isn't it?
I mean, it's for both ways. So it could be either a Taiwanese project that has international partners, or it could be an international project that needs Taiwanese participation. And it goes on to, applies to co-financing, or even if there is no co-financing, maybe even potentially just co-participation. So if there is certain amount of collaboration of crew, that you can still try to see if it fits into it. But I think the most important part is that the narrative angle from the Asian eye, or Asian, whether that you can approach to the Taiwanese audiences, and whether that they feel like that Taiwan has a certain voice and representation into the project.
There's a cultural imperative to the money.
And definitely a part of that is quite important of a score in their system.
Great. Estella, thank you so much for joining us. Please hang around for the questions. That would be great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am now going to move on to back. We're going west, where we are anyway. We've got two fantastic producers here. We're in the US now. So we are going to start with Kay Lee from Baobab Studios. So Baobab is one of the most renowned VR animation producers, and their studio is based out of LA. Hi, Kane.
Hi, Liz. How's it going?
Good.
I'm very excited to be here. I had content for Baobab Studios. We were started 4 years ago. Our mission has been very clear since day one. We want to bring out your sense of wonder, inspire you to dream. That's you, the audience, by making you matter and participate in our experiences as a character in our experiences. To achieve that, our goal has really been to create the immersive animation studio of the future, where our sort of structure might be a little bit different from some of the other producers here. We are an indie startup We are VC backed, so we have sort of strategically work with partners in technology like HTC and Samsung as early investors, and other investors spanning global media entertainment, including Shanghai Media Group, Comcast, NBC Universal, 20th Century Fox. Really it's our goal to pioneer immersive storytelling and use that as the vehicle to be the animation studio of the future. When we first started out, a lot of VR experiences were very passive. You were more of an invisible observer of what was going on. And so if we can go to the next slide. If you look at the bunny rabbit right there, our very first experience brought this little bunny rabbit, Chloe, straight up to the viewer, looks you in the eye, and she acknowledges your presence and even hides behind you during the experience, breaking the fourth wall behind you. That was called Invasion, and it was both critically and commercially a great stepping stone for us because we got a lot of positive feedback in terms of its popularity, in terms of views, and it won us our first Emmy Award for Best Interactive. So we focus on animation, and we focus on animation that really, for each project, moves the industry forward from the ways that matter to us. And the ways that matter to us are really to innovate in terms of thinking about how we can evolve storytelling to really involve users in a way that combines the best of film and gaming and real life. Throughout this, VR has become very apparently a very global ecosystem, and one where we realize that the best ideas are mined from all over the world. A couple of years ago, for our very first international co-production, I met a talented filmmaker at Cannes, and then I saw his experience at Venice Film Festival. He directed this experience called Alice. And it was an immersive theater experience that was very different technologically, the way he built it from our homegrown animation productions in Silicon Valley. But he creatively, vision-wise, he was trying to do the same things. He was trying to put you into the shoes of a fairy tale character, immerse you in that world, make you a part of the story, make your decisions matter. For us, entering the global co-production ecosystem started with the creative, and then quickly, in terms of assembling a team, we learned as we went along, and had a very seamless experience working. We brought on a French co-producer, Nexus Forward, and we were very lucky and fortunate to get the support of the CNC, and we world premiered this several months later at Tribeca Film Festival, 2018. So every production we do, whether it's domestic or international co-production, is based on the creative first. We will, this global market is very exciting to us and one that we want to explore further. So I look forward to meeting all of you and talking more about how we can potentially partner in the future.
Great, thank you so much, Kane. So we are gonna move on to Jackie Bosniak. So Jackie is founder of an award-winning sound studio called Q Department based out in New York City. And we met because we were introduced because of Mad Women VR, which is a wonderful mission, where Jackie's brought together an amazing network of fantastic women who work in the VR area. But you're going to talk now about Q Department. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Thanks for inviting me. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Bosniak. Q Department is an award-winning sound production studio that's focused on bringing Hollywood sound production to XR through our proprietary patented Mark I spatial system, which is an advanced quality audio format. We have offices in London, as well as studios in Paris and LA and New York. For real immersion, you really need to inhabit a persistent universe where there is a consistency and quality of sound that is maintained to suspend that disbelief. When we realized that we were actually ushering in the golden age of audio, which was a very exciting time. But then in early days, large technology companies were saying, whatever you know about audio, just throw it out the window. And they defaulted to ambisonic or just game engine sound, which has a lot of limitations, both creatively and also in terms of quality. Mark 1 was born out of XR projects where the directors that we were collaborating with demanded the same quality of sound and audio that they had come to expect on film. A good example was when we were working on Mr. Robot VR, where there was a scene where you go on the top of a Ferris wheel, and the director, Sam Ishmael, was very adamant that there was this hyperreal division between, if you looked right, you saw seagulls in the sea and that's all you heard, and if you looked left, it was the sort of amusement park scene. That's called divergent panning, and it was something that was not possible in ambisonic. And as they say, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. This is where Mark 1 was born. And it was really out of a necessity that this, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. This is basically what happened to us, which was, you know, at the time very exciting to be a sound production studio that also had the sound technology side now. We were not sort of looking to the masters of, looking at the masters of the past and connecting, expanding on their core values and motivations. So, you know, we wanted the creative mix to be the technical mix. Mark 1 spatial system had sort of been iterated and reiterated while we were working with different partners. At the moment, this feedback loop that we developed with directors has sort of allowed us to build our technology pipeline and to be like a really interesting partner for co-productions and international productions with partners, where we can bring both our R&D technology and our sound creative arm from Q Department. At the moment, we've done over 150 different XR experiences, you know, from Catatonic, which was one of the first experiences we did, which was a cult horror film in a wheelchair, to The Martian, Alien, De Angelica for Oculus Story Studios, The Last Goodbye, the Mars VR bus that won a lot of awards, and, you know, the Okavango series for Nat Geo, which was also a really exciting project because they allowed us to bring amazing sound recording technology to the Okavango in Africa and record the series. So, you know, as a sound company, we look to co-produce and develop properties that are very sound driven and sound focused. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's a very exciting time for audio in general, and we feel like this is just the beginning.
I think we've got, somebody's got some sound coming through. I don't know if, is that Jackie or Kane, or is that?
It's actually, there's actually somebody buzzing me on my apartments. Apologies.
They're very important nowadays.
Timing.
Yeah, exactly. Are you okay, Jackie? Do you need to run off and get that for a second, and I can ask Kane a question?
No, we were done.
You're all good.
Yeah, we're good.
Great, fantastic. So, it's obviously US. There's a huge amount of activity going on in the XR world, but you don't have public funding like many of the different territories and producers we've spoken to. So when you, or am I wrong? Because there are states that have, I know for film, they have some kind of tax credit system. In New York and California, is there anything that you can access?
I mean, I think if there's a way to, we haven't really experimented in it, but if there's a way to tap into animation incentives. So I think one thing that also distinguishes what we're trying to do as a studio is half of our studio is from Silicon Valley, half is from Hollywood. A lot of us come from a traditional film background. So we view as VR as an exciting place to incubate our new intellectual properties. And then we've been sort of a bridge in creating the very first VR to feature film adaptation deals with big Hollywood studios, et cetera. And hopefully we'll be able to announce some interesting deals later this year. I think that could be an interesting approach if we are to do certain productions simultaneously. But really, we have venture capitals is a very different ecosystem in the United States, and one that's in certain respects easier to tap into than in other continents like Europe. It's really about finding projects, and if those projects have certain advantages from tax incentives, et cetera, it makes our sort of overall evaluation of both the creative balance out with the business and technological considerations as well. So it's just another part of the equation looking at the international landscape.
Great, thank you, Kane. Because when it comes to Jackie, when it comes to your studio, because you've worked with, obviously there are projects that you're doing as a kind of service that you're being paid for, and there are projects that you have equity in. For example, when you get involved with a project like Port and Down, which was we selected for Venice last year, what kind of relationship do you have? Do you take equity in the project in return for working on certain elements of the project, obviously the sound and more?
Yeah, we often do that. Especially projects that we're very passionate about that also have an interesting sound component. Other ways that we look to do it creatively is like when sometimes there's a technology piece that we're working on that we spin off as a larger technology that we can sell to other people down the line, and we sort of take the approach that it's iterated while we're working on that project. One example would be externalized microphone that we worked on while we were doing Chained for Justin Denton and Madison Wells Media. That was a sort of mixed reality piece that was a theatrical piece where there were live mo-capped actors. So the actors were speaking to you at the same time that you needed to have open ear headphones with spatial sound happening. And so that was not possible to achieve with the current tools. So we actually had to invent that tool. But now we have that in our toolkit. We can sell that as a technology to other people that need to do live theatrical pieces. And right now we're working on a project actually that with a company that we met through CreativeXR last year, Megaverse, and we are using that technology. So there's interesting ways, as Kane said, like there's the VC side where you're looking at, funding technology to be built while you're doing something, and we have to get creative. I'm also looking forward to having more partnerships with Europe, especially since we have a UK office and a studio in Paris now. We are actively looking to do more co-productions, which would allow us to do more innovative projects that I see a lot more coming out of Europe than out of the USA.
Great, fantastic. And I would say, both Jackie and Kane have unbelievable connections to everyone in the US, and they're talking to all kinds of companies who could be amazing partners. So I think that's one of your, Jackie, you've got this relationship with Bose, which is great, and also so many other people that that can really help in terms of their the size of the company, their place in terms of distribution and audience. But Kane as well, you were saying you're working with obviously you talk to the studios, you're in contact with major talent. Who in terms of your role as producer, do you do the same? You become an executive producer, you take equity on a project if a UK CreativeXR project came to you?
Yeah, I mean, our model is to be an IP house, and to really so every project we take, we need we participate in, we co-develop in some way. What you're saying is right. I mean, we're kind of right in the middle of Silicon Valley and Hollywood, and there's a lot of disruption going on. And I think that we're really interested in these international stories and voices because, you can definitely come to us and tell us about your ideas, because the landscape is changing at breakneck speed right now. As you can see with digital, as you can see with the Netflixes and streaming services of the world disrupting traditional forms of distribution. So we're right in the thick of that, and we can kind of see how narrative storytelling in immersive mediums is going to have a role in that as well.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you. Please stay around. I'm going to ask some more questions, and there's also some questions from the audience. So please tap in your questions. We're delighted to answer them. I have a question about whether if you apply, I think the question is, if you apply for CreativeXR money, are you also eligible to apply for Arts Council England funding for the same project? And I think, you know, we often have this question because Digital Catapult and Arts Council are equal partners on the programme. So we often have this question. So I'm going to come to Ben Lane, who is from the Arts Council, who works with us on CreativeXR. Hi, Ben.
Hello. So unfortunately, it's not an easy answer to the question. I wish it was a yes, no. As ever, it's a yes, but. Yes, you can. But I think in looking at the question, there's a general point here, which is about what you're actually applying for through CreativeXR. So CreativeXR is actually, you're applying to a prototyping fund, and you're going to be asked some quite targeted questions about your project and the shape of it. So you need to consider that first and foremost. The question as to whether you might have used Arts Council money to help you develop an initial idea, to kind of show a proof of concept. Absolutely, absolutely. And actually that puts you in a better place, because you're going to have the kind of concept material that we're going to be looking for when we're looking at the application. So that's a good thing. However, if you already have a project that's quite a ways down the line, and you've already a long way towards actually building a prototype, or have built a prototype and simply want to develop it a bit further, I would say that's a much less strong case for funding. So I hope that's a little bit clearer. In general terms, whilst you could have used Arts Council money to help you get to the place where you can apply for CreativeXR, then that's absolutely fine. However, what you can't do is put in an application to apply to CreativeXR. That also depends on a grant from the Arts Council. So you can't have both the Arts Council and CreativeXR money within the same project. So again, I hope that's clear.
Thanks, Ben. That's great, and I know that you that we'll be available to answer those questions if we have any more. So you just need to get in touch. That's what I want to say. I know Evelyn's going to say at the end that you have to put in you have to register interest in applying, and you can also ask us questions at the same email link. But Evelyn will tell you more about that. We've had another question about tax credits, because we talked about tax credits. Thanks, Ben. Across, from the UK. I actually held a session on this last year, and it was really interesting because there are things that I didn't know. Basically, we have 3 different types of tax credits that you can apply through the BFI for. There's the games tax credit, the film tax credit, and the animation tax credit. And depending on what type of immersive or XR project you are, you can access one of those 3. So the games basically means interactive. It's not just about being a game. Animation means anything that has animation production within. And film means anything that's destined to be distributed in the film mechanism. So for example, it could be bound for a film festival. That's the goal, the first launch platform. So we have quite a good access to the tax credits, please get in touch with the BFI to find out about that. And also there's some law firms who are really specialised in this. Sheridan's is one of them. They're an expert in immersive tax credits. So that's one of the questions. I also, while I'm looking at the other questions, I also have some more questions for the panelists. So obviously, Katayun, you were mentioning that co-production is a jigsaw puzzle, and we've talked about all the positive reasons we could co-produce. I'd like to actually go into and ask a couple of the producers about the things you should look out for. So I'm going to, is Katayun there? I don't know if Katayun is still there.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you, because obviously they are a jigsaw puzzle, and it's sometimes really complicated putting money together. You know, Anton was explaining how you know, you split different parts of the budget according to your needs. What are some of the main things you feel we should look out for when putting a co-production together?
Well, with France, doing a co-production with France, I think so far, I think that France is one of the countries that is still very convenient to do co-productions with, as long as you spend 50% of the French money in France, in the co-production, you are good. But you have to as well consider the fact that you have to produce the project in French language. So this is one of the criteria that you have to pay attention to. So you can have like the English version, other versions in languages, but you have to consider a French version as well. Other than that, it really depends in which, how do you say, which category you are asking the money. So depending on the category, you have different criteria.
Great.
That's my baby.
Thanks very much, Katyoun. I will let you go and deal with that.
Thank you.
Audrey, I'm going to ask you this question. Are you still around? Hi, Audrey.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So Audrey, what are the kind of things, because obviously, you know, you've done co-productions between Canada and Belgium and Denmark. You know, when Antoine, again, going back to that, I liked his explanation that you split things up in a production to look at your needs. What have you found have been some of the main challenges when looking for your partners?
So first of all, I'm looking for a partner which is already approved by Canadian Media Fund, because obviously it's easier, because we know that there is money in Canada and there is money in the chosen country. But the biggest challenges actually is if you're doing a co-production, you need to find expertise in the other country. For example, I was lucky with Denmark because we had a measure with Denmark, but also because the animation studio was really fantastic. I wanted to work with them. But sometimes if you want to work with a country but there is no expertise there is money but no expertise, so what is the point to make a co-production? So actually co-production is really, really tricky if you want to find the perfect combination.
Exactly. So you might be able to raise the money, but if there's expertise, for example, in motion capture is in a particular territory, then you can't do it there. You've got to be very, very specific about what you need from each territory and check that, that there are production companies with that expertise or service.
Yeah. And also, for example, Miss Else, my biggest project right now, I have a big challenge because Canadian Media Fund and the Danish Film Institute, they made an agreement to fund a prototype phase, which is fantastic because I can build a prototype. I have $70,000 to do it, but then I don't have a production phase money. They stopped that. So I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to stay with the Danish company because they don't have money for the production phase.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm going to take another question from the audience. Thanks, Audrey, very useful. So there's a question from John Darvell. Is dance a form that is utilised much in CreativeXR project? Is there a barrier that stops technologists from using dance in their projects? So just to answer you, John, yes, there are many dance projects we've had that have been part of CreativeXR, or live performance projects involve actors or dancers. We had a project that Satori Studio did last year called Undust. I'm not quite sure about is there a barrier that stops technologists from using dance in their projects? Because there's a huge genre around dance. And I'm not quite sure how to answer that, because I know many different dance companies who are working with technologists on projects. So there are many different companies you can gain access to. Have a look at some of our projects that we had last year, and the 20 that we chose to prototype. And also there are interesting examples. For example, there's a company called Gilles Jobin, a Swiss contemporary choreographer who worked with a technology company called Artenim. There are many different examples, even if you Google dance and other things, or you can contact us just from some pointers. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that we need to answer. And I know we're coming up for time soon. I know that Michael Salmon had a question actually for the Canadian producers, Audrey and Rob, and it was about accessing CMF money to get a specific service. So for example, AI, like a specific vendor. I guess this question is about that you can't, this is right, isn't it? That you can't sort of just go direct to, get money as a UK producer and go and get a vendor. You have to be a Canadian producer who sets it up as a co-production.
Yeah, so I don't know if Rob want to answer, or you need a Canadian producer for sure, of course, but the Canadian Media Fund is also giving money for software. So if you have a AI component you want to develop, yes, you can get money from the CMF, but you need a Canadian partner.
Great. Thank you very much, Audrey. We've got a question for, I think Maddie should take this one. It's from James Simpson. So who will be assessing the applications? Do we need to explain technology in detail? Should we be focusing on the creative concept story or the innovation in the technology solution? Maddie, do you want to answer that question? Are you around?
Yes.
Hi.
I'm here. So the question is, should we be focused, who will be assessing the applications? Okay, so it will be a combination of Digital Catapult, Arts Council England, as well as external judges that we select for their expertise in the industry. In terms of the second question, I would say this is definitely a content innovation accelerator program, so it is for content. However, we do ask in the application as well, how are you technologically building your piece of content? So I think the answer is that really we're interested in both, but I think the content piece is a bit more important.
And yeah, I'd say it's more like the concept and the idea is always what drives the project. That's the kind of key. And also, if you look in the application, when you get to the application forms, James, it will be very clear the questions that you've got to answer. I think, Maddie, when someone starts.
Yes, exactly. So you'll see that there's a section specifically about how are you building this? What's your technical summary? And then there's a part where you can speak directly about the concept behind your full experience. And of course, the technical summary bit, it depending on whether you're applying to a specific strand that is more technical. So for example, if you're applying to the AI strand or the 5G strand, then you will be asked to describe a bit more detail in there about how you will be using AI in your project or 5G.
Great, thanks so much. I'm just going to take one question and try and answer it quickly because I know that we've got to wrap up in a second. So it's from Sparsh Ahulia. Hi, I've received an artist's fellowship as an individual producer for an animated VR documentary from a non-profit group in the States. I'm Australian, but I'm working with a UK director and lead developer. They have a production company in the UK. We haven't built a prototype yet. We're at the XR market last year, the CreativeXR market last year, not in the cohort. Can we apply? Absolutely, but you will have to apply through the UK production company. And would be really interested to hear about your project. If you want to get in touch before you're totally welcome to have a chat with me or Maddie about the project, and we can run through that in detail. But yes, just in the same way that all of the co-producers have said, accessing their public funding, because remember, CreativeXR is funded through Digital Catapult and the Arts Council England. These are government agencies like Arts Council money and Digital Catapult money. Very important that we're trying to, we're trying to enable companies and grow companies and artists in the UK, UK and England, obviously the Arts Council of England. So that's what's really important for us. So you have to apply for a UK company for CreativeXR. So I think I'm going to have to wrap up now. I'm looking at the time now. So I'd like to say an absolute huge thank you for our speakers. What a fantastic to see everyone after being in lockdown from all over the world. And thanks so much, especially for those of you who are 8 hours behind or 7 hours ahead. So the slides and video for the session are going to be available, so please don't worry. I know I've had some texts from people. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure to moderate this. I'm going to hand you back now to Evelyn, who's going to wrap up the session.
Hello, everyone. Hello. So we're wrapping up the session now, and yes, just to reiterate, thank you to everyone who's participated and has given presentations. There's a lot of insight that was given, and we're really appreciative. So the next steps for all those who have joined us is tune in to our next webinar, which is happening on Friday, the 24th of April at 10 a.m., where you'll be able to hear more about the benefits that come with the 5G and AI stream. And this is an opportunity for applicants to use those technologies to enhance the immersive experiences. So whether you're thinking about applying those technologies to your prototypes, or you want to learn more about what those technologies can do for you, we really encourage you to join that webinar. And we'll put information about that and how you can register for it in the post-event email. Additionally, there's been a lot of chat going on in the chat box. So if you are interested in collaborating with people that you've met online just now, please don't forget to complete the Typeform collaboration survey that was put in the chat. And if it's got lost, no worries. Again, we will include that in the post-event email. And last but certainly not least, make sure to apply to CreativeXR. Our deadline is Sunday, the 17th of May at 11:59 p.m. And we are really looking forward to seeing your applications. So thank you for everything. Thank you for coming and listening to us, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Bye, everyone.